Are you ready for this? Well, welcome back to Living with a Classic. First of all, sorry a little bit about my voice. I am losing it. It's coming and going, but hopefully it will last long enough for this intro at least. So you see me sitting next to a V12, and so the one over there. That one, you know, from a rusty Daimler 66 I removed, and that's at the body shop right now, having some work done. And when that's back, we'll put it all back together. However, I pulled this from a parts car, and that's because I had a customer contact me about an XJ12, a Series 2 with no engine. It has a really good story, and I like good stories. We're going to go into that when we have a look at the car. It's sitting down in storage, but we have the engine up here, and I need to prepare the engine to go into that car because, well, the car has no engine. So I picked this up from a parts car. I haven't had it running. However, previous owner of the parts car had it running. I have turned it over, see it has oil pressure. I have checked through it. I've done a compression test and all of that, and it seems to be a healthy engine. Looks nice and clean inside as well. So hopefully it's all good. It's just that the electronics and everything were already ripped out of the car, so we couldn't really get started, and yeah, ripped it out. However, I have good hopes. These V12s are usually really good. Remember that one? It sat for 40 plus years and it fired right up. So we have a good basis to work on here. A lot needs to be replaced and cleaned up, and replace a lot of gaskets and things. The other car, we can get the whole story of it when we go down into the unit and have a look at it. However, let's just say the engine was removed in the 80s, and the block and heads, they were not stored in a good place, and that's why we're not using them. However, everything else was stored really well, such as the intakes, such as the injectors, which, I mean, we'll go through them, of course. And everything else is just really nice shape. So this is going to get stripped down, and we're going to use everything from the other engine to make this all nice and go back together. We're using the transmission here because the fluid is nice and clean in it. And, well, it wasn't a really high mileage car or anything. Also, well, we'll start going into the details of the other car. It was severely overheated a long time ago. And because the transmission is cooled by the same radiator, I said it's better that we use this one because this one hasn't been cooked at least. And it looks really nice and clean inside. If you drop the pan later and it looks terrible inside, well, we'll do something about that. We'll put another one on there. But if this one's good, then we don't have to mount another transmission and do things like that. The customer is getting a 70s four-door XJ back on the road. They're not worth a whole lot. This is a sentimental value sort of thing. We'll go into the whole story. And yeah, we're trying to keep the costs down a little bit because, well, let's just say an engine rebuild, sorry about that, for a V12, we're starting at like $15,000 plus. And that's more than the car's worth at the end. While editing this, I noticed that my mic wasn't working or on and off during this clip, so we'll do a voiceover. The story is pretty good. A lady contacted me about this V12 that she has sitting, and it was her dad's car. So in 1986, when this car was 10 years old, her dad bought it and imported it to Sweden from Germany. He then did what many people do when you buy a really nice car. You plan a family holiday. So they're all going to Spain, I believe. And they made it to somewhere in Germany, and the car started acting up and running hot. They went to a dealership, a Jag workshop, had some work done on the car, and they continued. Car kept running hot and blew his head gaskets, or had already blown his head gaskets. And I don't remember exactly if they made it all the way back, sort of limping it, or if it had to get towed all the way home to Sweden. However, the lady who owns the car now, she told me that, yeah, she was a teenager back then, riding in the back, and wasn't that happy that she was late back for the start of school, and wasn't that fond of this old Jag. But, you know, sometimes you get sentimental about cars a bit later, and now, yeah, it's her dad's old car, and we are going to fix it up for her so she can remember her dad when she drives this beautiful car. Now, isn't that a really good story? Someone wanting to get a car back on the road for sentimental values. She knows it's going to cost probably more than it's worth to get it back on the road and everything. but it means a lot to her, and I think she really just wants to remember her dad, who sadly passed away a couple years ago, and remember him by driving the car that he never sadly really got to enjoy that much. So that's where I come in, and I want to help them out with this. So initial plan is get that engine cleaned up and pretty empty. I want to remove all the ancillaries and things, and I have everything new for it. Water pump, hoses, gaskets. We're doing everything basically except head gaskets and a couple other things, because it's probably a good running engine. It was kept as a parts car, and then sadly the parts car sat and it rusted a bit and it wasn't worth, but they kept it for so long that it was good. And like I said, most of these old V12s, they're fine after been sitting for a long time, which is really good. So, and also it looks fantastic inside. But if we see something along the way, we'll sort it out, or we'll find another engine. So I'm going to clean it up, make it look nice, because now it's outside the car. We can degrease it, make it look really nice. We're not building a show car, but we want to make it look nice. And then we're going to put on all of the ancillaries, which are from a low mileage engine. We have the nice original cam covers, which still have paint. It's fantastic on. You see those later when you pull those out. The intakes, actually in the back, we can have a look at those. They look fantastic. And just put everything back on, alternator thing, starter motor, check which one's best. Probably the one that's from a low mileage car, even though it's been sitting. But we'll clean up and bench test everything, and we'll put the engine in here. And then it needs all new brakes, probably all new calipers, disc pads, everything. It needs a new exhaust. And we'll go through bushes and all of that, and new tires and everything, and get this thing back on the road. So it'll be a little bit of a series, but in this part one, I want to get the engine ready and plug the engine into the engine bay. Have you seen such fantastic, beautiful cam covers in really nice shape? We're keeping those nice and original. So here we have the V12 that I will be using, the donor engine. When you're sitting next to them, they're quite massive. And if you know I follow the channel, I love these engines so much. They're my favorite engine ever made. So there's a lot to remove here, but there's a lot that I won't be using. Like I said, I won't be using the cam covers because the other ones are really nice. Won't be using the inlet manifolds because the other ones are really nice. Anyways, I would remove them to replace all the gaskets and everything. So gasket wise, we're going to replace everything on the engine except the head gaskets, except the front and rear main seals, just because, well, if you know these engines, there's so much to take apart to get to those, and yeah, you don't really, it's the crank out. You're not going to do that. I think we're going to keep the exhaust manifolds on, because if they look like they're not leaking or anything, you're in good shape. Better not touch those, just to not break any studs. The studs for the downpipes, I'll replace those. Remove all of the front ancillaries, because I'll be using other parts. Remove the starter and try that out, see how that is. And I will be putting the starter on before you put it in the car, because if you know, that's pretty tight. And then just clean up the whole area, clean up the transmission and everything. When it's in the car, I'll be doing the lower pan gasket, and I will be doing a service to the transmission as well. But I don't want to do that with it hanging in the crane, so I'll do that in the car before the transmission mount goes in. And everything else up here. So I will start now by putting on a nice little podcast or a book or something, listen to that, and I will pull off the injectors, the rails, the plugs and wires, the pedestal, inlet manifolds, and just start stripping this thing down, and then we'll start cleaning the engine as well. Time to just hit everything with some pinsetting fluid, and I'll be, of course, saving all the hardware for these. I'm thinking, yeah, I'll pull the intakes with the injectors. Just keep it all together. So when you guys are working in your workshop like this, you guys listen to something. I'm right now listening to some audiobooks. Listening to, for the first time ever, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's just so far a really fun book to listen to. It does make the time fly a little bit. Oh. You could be wondering why I'm not just pressure cleaning it right now as it is. Well, some of the injectors are loose, and it would go straight into the engine anyways. Also, I don't have the possibility of hanging this thing in a crane outside, a place where I can pressure wash it. So I'll be doing it the way I usually clean these in the car in here. So that's why. But yeah, we'll disconnect these harnesses. They've been remade with the incorrect connectors, and I think we have. There are pre-HE injectors, but there's HE connectors. I don't know. People have been having their fun with this engine, but we'll just disconnect everything. And plug wires are ugly, but they're okay. So I'll be keeping them as good spares or donating them to a friend who has messes around with a lot of V12. So it's always good to have. These are 8mm silicone wires, so you can definitely use them. Alright, let's get the intakes off, and then well, I think we'll get AC compressor, intakes off, and then throttle pedestal and a couple other things. And there we have the intakes off, and if you watched my channel before, you know I've done this tons of times on here. It's really important not to get anything into the engine. That's why we have the rags here. But before I put them in, I had a look inside. You can see the intake valves right there, and they look really, really clean and good. So I think this engine probably is as good as it seems to be. But I stuffed the paper rags in here so nothing can come down there, and even if when I'm cleaning it, a little bit of clean solution comes, it will get soaked up by the paper. And then the last thing I do is I run the shop vac around them before I pull them, just to make sure everything's clean when the intakes go back on. I'm going to continue removing more things, get the wiring harness out of the way. Let me have a look at the car again, because I'm thinking, I mean, this harness that's on here is terrible. Worst case, I need to make one, but I believe I saw in the engine bay the whole complete engine harness laying there. So let me see if there's the injector harness as well. So otherwise, they're held in place here at the bottom, the injector harness. I think so, because going through all the parts, the plate here that covers the jack shaft, I've seen with the distributor and all of this laying in a box of parts. So that has all been removed. I'll continue there. Then to the front here, we're gonna start. I'll remove the light for you guys. We're gonna remove all the front ancillaries because I don't need them. We're gonna use the other ones probably, or whichever ones seem best, but I'm guessing the other ones. And I have a new water pump and all that, so all this can be removed and cleaned. That will also make the engine a little bit lighter when we install it and smaller. It's already a lot smaller at the moment. We'll keep the water rails on because we have the lifting hooks here. Then when they're in the car, I will be removing the water rails to replace the gaskets behind here and the seals here as well. But for now, we'll leave them on, just clean around them. I went down to the car and I double checked. Yes, the ignition, the injector harness and the engine harness are all in the engine bay, and they've been removed from the top cover. So I can remove this whole harness and well, I mean, it's not in great shape, but I'll still keep it because of all the connectors. On the distributor on the pre-HE, you have the disc here with the rods that give the signal. And right there, it says cylinder 1. So when that is on the sensor here, you're in cylinder 1, and this will point pretty much this way, which is on 1A. So I'm going to turn it over now so we have everything set over at top dead center. It's just a 7/8 wrench on the front of these. So this part good. It has a bit of compression now. I'm gonna turn it over. Can also verify at the same time that we are. I mean, that pointing at cylinder 1 is not going to be perfectly top dead center, but so we'll stop a little bit before, and I'll have a look at the marks underneath. But as long as we're close enough to drop in another distributor, that is good enough. Let me see how much is left. Dug up a bit more. There we go. I'll put it at cylinder 1 for now, because I can't really see the marks down there. I'm going to clean them off when the engine is on the hoist. It's on the ground now, but that is good enough to know, hey, this distributor is actually in pretty good shape. That is good enough to know that we are there in cylinder 1, because there's 13 teeth, so you have, what is that, about 30 degrees or something like that between each of them. So that's fine. Now, I think I'll move to the front of the engine and remove everything up here. Now I'll move on to the front of the engine here. What I really want to get off is the water pump. I have a new one, of course. We'll get the power steering pump off. I will remove the alternator as well. And the whole fan hub assembly also. You need to get that off in order to get the water pump off. So it's all pretty straightforward. We'll cut the belt. I'll get new belts, of course, and then we have a lot of degreasing to do over here, but pretty straightforward. I'm going to start removing some things here. I'll probably start filming when we get to the water pump bit, and then now I know I can remove the whole harness. I think we'll pull the distributor and the throttle pedestal as well, and I'm not decided about. I'm going to replace the oil cooler. It doesn't leak anything, but all this finning on the outside is gone on it, so it's not really cooling anything. And I have drained the transmission. I think we're going to drain the engine of oil as well, because if we do that, we can remove the oil cooler and just plug it for now, and then get ready to put in another one. This doesn't look too bad. Seen a lot worse inside with corrosion, so that's really good. There was coolant in the engine when I removed it, so this is all really good news. Even the water pump is nice and quiet, but of course it's one of those things, of course you replace it, but that is good. Now I'm going to get the coolant crossover pipe off, the holder for the AC compressor, alternator off, and power steering pump off, and this idler off. Then we'll clean up the front of the engine and start getting the rest of it off, and so start degreasing and making it look a little bit nicer. So we have a pretty much stripped engine here, and I've blown off all the loose stuff with compressed air. Next thing is to clean it up. One way is take it outside and pressure wash it. Yeah, it's hard not to get water in everywhere and things like that. And like I said, there is a incline going into my workshop, and I don't have an easy way of getting this out to do it. So I'm going to clean the way you should clean these in the car, because it's not very often you remove these V12s. You can do almost everything to them with them in the car. So I like to use just different types of degreasers. This is just nothing special. It's one of those, let's see if I can close it. It's tar and you know, oil and things. It loosens up so when you're like washing a car after winter. So it's really not that strong, but it's good enough for this, and it won't damage anything. So I'm going to start just spraying everything down. So transmission, everything. And we'll let it soak for a bit. Then I'll spray it all once more again. Then I'll agitate it with a brush and then just sort of keep going. You can continue spraying new stuff on there, which will loosen up the old stuff, and then it's just a matter of getting a bunch of rags or towels, paper towels, and cleaning it all up. See, most of this comes off really easily. There's pretty smooth surfaces on these engines, so it really, it's not too much to it. You can see here already, for instance, I'll just take the cam boxes here. Yeah, you see, already looking really nice. So I'll spend probably an hour or so cleaning up this engine. And then we are ready to start moving on to actually putting some new things on. We'll remove the cam covers. And I'll get the other ones from the back of that car. I have new gaskets for them. We'll put those on. I'm gonna have a look through parts because I have the whole center cover here with the distributor and everything from the other engine. So I might just get that because I have new gaskets, put that in, and that way I also have the oil pressure switch and everything from the other car. These are different on earlier and late cars, so I'll want the one from the other car to make sure we get the correct readings. I have new washers for all of this. Yeah, this isn't really too much fun, but you'll join me back in a little bit and this thing should look a lot cleaner. Once I've agitated it with a brush and I'm all happy with it, this is what I like to use. It is actually a degreaser sprayer you can get, anywhere for compressed air, but it's just filled with water. And it doesn't spray very much, but sprays at a pretty high rate. And it's great for rinsing because, as you see, it's very little water I'm using. I mean, this whole container was enough to rinse the whole engine. With that rinse, I'll check for more spots and then apply some more degreaser in the brush. But you see, it's pretty straightforward and you get a really nice result. It's a lot cleaner. Definitely not perfect. We're not going for a show car. I just want to make it look nice. It'd be nice to work on. Remove the starter and clean behind there as well. And yeah, it's just nice and clean everywhere. It needs to dry a bit now. I'm going to move the engine out of the way and then we can pick up the car. That'll probably be tomorrow, and clean up that engine bay and then start putting this engine in. I'm going to leave these cam covers on for now in case I scratch them or anything. I don't have to be that careful. I can use chains or anything now, and then I can replace them once it's in the car. But let me move things out of the way, clean up a little bit, get rid of some of this cardboard. It has soaked up everything and made the cleanup job a lot easier. And then you'll join me when we pick up the other car. So here's the car, towed up here with the X-Type. And I'm going to hook the winch up on it and winch it into the workshop. But before that, I'm going to give it just a quick little wash, get the dirt off it. This will be really fun to see what it looks like, but also less chance of scratching it. And then just clean up the engine bay a little bit. It's really not too bad, but just hose it down a little bit. And then we are pretty ready to get the engine in. Well, this is worst of the dirt off and the engine bay is nice and clean. And that's good. Let it dry here. And then I'll the workshop nice and dry, so any connections and things we'll also spray that with some WD-40 to get the moisture out. But it's just a nice way to do it. One thing is a little unfortunate is on this side, it seems that whatever was on the paint has left all these white marks all over it, and a couple streaks here as well. But hopefully that can be buffed out. Otherwise, it's a very nice original car. I'll show you guys the interior a bit. Oh, it's been sitting for almost 40 years. bit of a time capsule. So what one of these was like to have as a 10-year-old car. So I'm gonna hook up the winch, get this in the workshop, and then we'll dry off and start preparing to put that big V12 in. We're really getting close to lifting in the new engine. However, I just want to try out the starter. This is the one that came with the car, and it looks fine. And these are quite robust starters. They're just they're pain to change in the car once you get the exhaust on. But let's see what it does. There we go. Look at that connection. This is the one that was on the engine, and I actually think it sounds healthier. Yeah, that sounds better. That's actually, and I know it does crank because I've done a compression test on that and it cranked the engine over, no problem at all. So I think I'll clean that one up, and that's the one going on there. It sounds good. Yeah, it's a good healthy starter. Just starting to line things up here, and I also removed the prop shaft because the previous engine that was in here had the BorgWarner 12, I believe, because it's a 76, and that transmission is a little bit shorter, but I have the correct prop shaft and everything for this car. So I just removed that, and yeah, here's my son hanging out here in the background, and yeah, gonna do some angling and everything, and this engine should be in place really soon. One V12 installed and sitting where it should on the engine mounts. The back is still just supported by a jack, but I will put the mount in. All of that, you need to go through the parts, but it's in there, and that's a really big step forward. Well, that's it for this part. We took a car that's been off the road since 1986 without an engine, put a good used V12 in there that we've also stripped down and cleaned. I decided to lift it in just with the old cam covers at the moment. The other ones which are in the back, which are really, really nice, I'm going to get put on in the next part. So the next part of this car will be getting it to fire up. I will fire it up with the injectors as they are at the moment, and then when we know it runs and everything works electronically, we'll replace the fuel hoses and all that. But I will put new coolant hoses everywhere. Yeah, water pump, belts, you name it, all of that, so we can fire it up. Also won't have an exhaust. It will be really loud. We won't run it for that long. We'll see. I'm waiting on some parts, so maybe we will just fire it up without some parts, but just sort of know that it runs and that the electronics work and the sensors and everything, and then continue. But it will be a multi-part series. Hope you guys are looking forward to seeing that. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Till next time, I'm Adam. This was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.